Okay, guys, the last and final lecture for Tuesday, dermatology, skin and integument. Let me share my screen and then we will rock and roll. Okay, I hope, yeah, you guys can see that. Okay, great. All right, guys, the integumentary system. Here we go. This is going to blow your mind. Maybe not, but the skin is fun. The skin is fun. There are generally simple rules, clinically when dealing with dermatology. However, the skin anatomically and actually, and even physiologically, it does definitely have some complexities. And so what we're going to cover here is going to be just a very simple overview of the skin and integument, and we're going to cover some terms. Now is where we things get real, as they say. All right, guys. So what in the world, first and foremost, what is the integument? Okay, according to Taylor's Encyclopedic Medical Dictionary, which is on your book list for this class, okay, a covering, semicolon, the skin, consisting of corm or dermis and epidermis. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second, but there are two layers to the skin, the dermis and the epidermis, which are separated by a basement membrane. Okay, I learned something new today. If we look at the definition of skin, and I didn't punctuate this properly, my apologies. Apparently, the origin of this is an Old Norse word, skin, with like 57 ends. There's actually only two there. No offense to Norwegians, great people, and I like where I live now. So, all of you that are from those areas, congratulations. Okay, but yeah, skin, right? I didn't know that was an Old Norse word. Same definition. Okay, it's the organ that forms the outer surface of the body. Very different definitions, though. All right, friends, let's kind of get down into some detail here. Okay, primary functions of the skin. So, obviously, first and foremost, the skin serves obviously protect us from the external environment, right, and foreign bodies. It is one of the largest organs. Actually, it is the largest organ in the body, believe it or not. It's super duper important. What the skin does is it actually helps us maintain temperature and hydration status through a sweating mechanism. Okay, and it also helps us synthesize vitamin D. Now, crazy times. How does our skin, first and foremost, make vitamin D? So, ergosterol is actually a substance, a fatty substance actually in our skin that gets broken down to vitamin D via a photochemical reaction in the presence of sunlight. So that's why they tell you to get vitamin D, go sit near a window, roll up your sleeves or sit outside, but don't sit outside for too long because they get sunburn, especially if you're like me and you're like transparent and then it just goes right through you. Okay. So ultimately, this protection of skin and all the functions that the skin serves is accomplished through layers of skin called the dermis and the epidermis. Okay. The epidermis is the outermost layer of skin that lies on top of the dermis. Okay, they are connected by a basement layer. Now, if we talk about what the epidermis is made up of, 80% of the epidermis is made up of something called keratinocytes. So those keratinocytes, if you can believe it, live basically in the basement layer of the skin, and they actually migrate to the epidermis, okay? And that process is called keratinization. So you can't see them, but if you've ever looked very, very closely at your skin, you'll notice that it has these little tiny like skin cells and ridges in it and those types of things, right? So those keratinocytes actually, they form they're little teeny tiny appendages. Believe it or not, you have little tiny things hanging all off of your skin, right? And those things are called corneocytes, and they actually trap and hold water, okay? So that is that's part of those keratinocytes, okay? But they absorb and trap water, and that actually helps us maintain moisture in the skin. Okay, All right, there are non-keratinocyte cells, as I cough when I try to say that word. Excuse me. Okay, melanocytes. Melanocytes are pigment-producing cells. Okay, all of us as created people, right? All of us have melanin, right? And this is found in the basal layer of the skin. So melanocytes have these little melanosomes. So we know that generally cells, right, have these things called ribosomes, and they transport things. Well, melanocytes make melanosomes, right? And those melanosomes actually have the melanin in them, and they're what actually transports melanin to the keratinocytes and the epidermis. Okay, so the more melanosomes produced by the melanocyte, the greater the pigment, right? So the more pigment that an individual will have, the more melanosomes that are there. Okay, crazy times, Merkel cells. What are Merkel cells? So there was a small town that was literally 15 minutes from me where I used to live, Merkel, Texas. And I was like, Merkel cells? Somebody in like Merkel, Texas probably can like name these cells. It's probably their claim to fame. But Merkel cells, all right, within the skin are pressure receptors. Okay, these are baroreceptors, pressure receptors that are densely located in your lips, in your fingers, in your mouth, and in the roots of your hair follicles. Okay, that's why if you ever kind of like, well, I don't have hair, but if I did, and I could pull on it, I'd feel this sense of pressure, right, on my hair, and those are actually Merkel cells that are kind of forming that sense of pressure, right? My fingertips. If you've ever kind of touched your sweater or your clothes, notice how fine the sensation of pressure is in your fingertips. Okay, same thing with your lips. Your lips, the the Merkel cells actually on your lips are actually embedded on keratinocytes, and they sense pressure. So very interesting. Okay, crazy times. Langerhans cells. Okay, these are not in the pancreas, not the islets of Langerhans. Okay, Langerhans cells are actually, believe it or not, immune cells in the skin. They're located in the basal layer of the epidermis, and they're actually responsible for T cell response. So these cells actually help you regulate immune function of your skin, right? And so what they do is that they actually digest antigens from bacteria and other bacteria, viruses, and other foreign bodies, as long as they're soluble, and they will actually digest those antigens. Why do they have to be soluble? Remember, because those corneocytes actually on your skin actually help you retain water, and they're actually glands that assist you in maintaining a moisture balance of your skin. Okay, yeah. So sweat glands, we've all got them. Okay, sweat glands are divided into two types. There's eccrine glands and apocrine glands. Excuse me. Eccrine glands are the most common. They make up 80%, okay, of your sweat glands. And they respond to increases in temperature and stress. Okay. So obviously being outside and when it's hot, that's self-explanatory. Even if you wear a coat, like a heavy coat, you have to walk a mile or two with a parka on, you get a little sweaty underneath that parka, right? But if you're ever like right before a presentation or whatever, and you get a little nervous, you get the sweaty palms. Yeah, those are your eccrine glands. Now, crazy times, did you know apocrine glands are also sweat glands? However, did you know that if you walk by someone and they generally don't smell pleasant, it is because that's actually being secreted from the apocrine glands, not the eccrine glands. Okay, the apocrine glands are actually broken down by skin bacteria, and as those cells die and are broken down, they release a smell. Okay. The other thing that actually separates apocrine glands from eccrine glands is that those apocrine glands open up into hair follicles. Now, we also have these glands called holocrine glands. Holocrine glands actually secrete whole cells, right? And a part of the holocrine glands that we have is this oily substance called sebum, right? And sebum is essentially a substance that allows us to maintain moisture of the skin and maybe a little bit of an oily texture to the skin. So those are called sebaceous glands. Okay. Hair follicles. All right, hair follicles, guys. So everybody has hair. I don't have hair, but if I did, my follicles would not look like your follicles. We all have different shaped and sized follicles. Clearly, the follicles on my face don't match the ones on my head. Okay, so I've got different face hair follicles, beard follicles, clearly, than the ones up top. Okay. Now, my question for you is, have you ever gotten a goosebump? A goosebump is actually due to the fact that you actually have a small, smooth muscle cell basically on your epidermis, and it's called the erector pillae muscle. It's a small, smooth muscle that contracts and causes your hair follicle to stand up straight, stand up right? In cold temperatures, or maybe when you're angry or you're upset, right? You get goosebumps. I have never, by the way, in my life heard it called chicken skin. I think some people, like in this region of the country, call it chicken skin. And I was like, what in the world is chicken skin? But apparently that's a thing. I also had never heard of duck, duck, gray duck. Where I'm from, it's duck, duck, goose. Not to start a fight or anything like that in my lecture, but apparently that's a thing too. Okay, let's start talking about terms. Did you know there are two different terms, okay, roots for these terms? Okay, trick is the root for hair, and then pilus is also another root for hair. So root for hair, trick or pilus, okay? But wait, what is this? Okay, this is actually an interesting thing. Any of you, I promise you, any of you that are working in wound care centers, in physical therapy as an athletic trainer, I see this all the time as well. Okay, these are called polymer cysts. Okay, now we talked about how pylo is another root for hair. Okay, another root for hair. My dog was begging me to throw the ball. Now, nidus is a root for nest. Okay, and really, when you see these polymer cysts, sorry if this is gross, by the way, but I thought this was a really cool pathology that would demonstrate these roots very well. But these look like basically a giant lump around the sacrum or the buttock, right? And on one end of them, you will generally always see a tuft or a clump of hair, right? So you see a pilonidal, a hair nest cyst. And believe it or not, these are actually previous patients of mine. I have permission to share these pictures from these patients, but these were actually previous patients of mine. When I was practicing clinically, we were doing daily wound care for these people. These are very difficult to heal. Both of these young men had surgeries. The young man with the picture on the top had a surgery that failed. And his incision reopened. And so we were doing essentially daily wound care on him for months and months. But we got him better. We actually did it, and he's better, and he was able to return to football. So it was awesome. Okay, let's get into a little bit more roots here. Okay, all right, combining terms, particularly talking about the skin. Okay, skin and nails. Okay, hydro. Okay, sweat, hyperhidrosis, people that sweat a lot, right? Hydro. Okay, the root there is sweat, dermo or dermato or cutaneo. Okay, derm-o, combining vowel, dermato, combining vowel, cutaneo. Excuse me, all relate to skin. Okay, onychio, right? Or ungo. Okay. Excuse me, those are a little harder to pronounce, but that is the root and the combining vowel for nail. If you've ever had your toe stepped on and you've had blood underneath your toenail, you have a subungual hematoma. Yes, you do. Blood trapped under your toenail. It's painful. Okay, sebo. Seb is the root for oil. O is the combining vowel. All right, friends. But what are we likely to see with with skin and with other things? And this is going to help you too when we get into things like orthopedics and infectious disease. We're setting the table, okay? Neck grow, okay, neck grow, neck, okay, neck grow. This is the root and combining vowel for death, okay. Now here's the deal, okay. Ultimately, for those of you that are maybe you're gonna be PAs, or maybe you're gonna go to med school, work in primary care, you're gonna see a ton of skin abscesses. a lot of staph infections, those types of things. Staph, strep, those types of things. Abscesses, which is a collection of pus under the skin. Okay. Ultimately, though, if these things are not treated at their worst, if you don't appropriately incision and drain these or IND these and appropriately pack them, this can, at its worst, develop into necrotizing, okay, fasciitis. Necrotizing, okay, that is essentially where it kills connective tissue and essentially eats away at your tissue and at your joints. There have been cases in the past with collegiate programs, most notably, I think at Stanford, maybe it was USC, it's a school in California, where they had staph infections that went undetected in a couple of their players, and literally these poor kids, these guys were in the hospital with really bad staph infections and neck fash. That's how we abbreviate it, at least in the medical term, neck fash. It's an abbreviation, but nearly lost a knee, nearly lost a leg because they had staph infections that weren't treated. Okay, Staphylo. Those of you that are in biology, you know what these mean. And I think I just realized, I think my medical terminology book is, the book that I used is actually wrong, but we'll look at that later. Staphylo, okay, it's a bacterial type. Crypto, it's not a currency. It's not an electronic currency that's ridiculously volatile. No. It is the root and combining valve for hidden. Okay, you may see someone with cryptic tonsils, right? Maybe they have pustules on their tonsils that are actually kind of tucked back inside, where you can't actually see them with a light. Okay, Pachio, okay, that is the root and the root and combining verb for thick. Okay, Ritido, okay, wrinkles. I'm developing some of those myself. Okay, Conio, okay, the root and combining valve for dust. Auto, self. When we talk about things like ACL reconstruction, we can have an autograft or an allograft. An autograft is taken from you, it's from your body and put back into your body, right? Whereas an allograft is taken from someone else, generally a cadaver, and is placed into your body. Okay, zero, it's the root and combining valve for dry. And then strepto, which is the definition of that is a bacterial formation of twisted chains, although I think that's suspect. All right then. There we go. Okay, what about clinical procedures within dermatology, right? If you've ever been, maybe you have a cream, okay, you're going to apply that on the epidermis, right? You're going to apply that, on the top layer of skin, okay? Intradermal, okay, within the skin. Sometimes you'll have, biopsies or other procedures that are done intradermally, okay? Para, beside. Per, through. So you'll oftentimes see words. We made a percutaneous incision, means they made an incision through the skin to access an anatomical location. And then a big one that you guys will hear a ton is going to be sub-Q, okay, or subcutaneous, sub, under, below, right? There are certain medications that we give subcutaneously or underneath the skin, okay? Now, another combining form to be aware of is bio. Obviously, biopsy, getting a view of life in dermatology, not uncommon to do biopsies of tissues, particularly with mole removals and those types of things. It's very commonplace. Okay, what about suffix? Oh, geez. So sorry, guys. All right, coccus. Okay, berry-shaped ectomy. Okay, this is even, we talk about this in orthopedics too. A meniscectomy. Okay, so that's excision or surgical removal. Okay, ia. Okay, is it diseased or abnormal? Itis means inflammation. Malacia, excuse me, is softening. Okay, this is generally pathologic. All right. Another word that you will see for soft is LEI, Lee. Okay, and that's in another slide. But generally, any type of malacia, whether it's encephalomalacia, chondromalacia, is generally pathologic, right? So softening in this case generally refers to the breakdown of tissue integrity, where it becomes softer and less amenable to forces placed across it, placed across it, and or where the tissue breaks down. Generally viewed as pathologic or bad, right? Phagia, eating or swallowing, okay? All right, so if you have dysphagia, you have trouble swallowing, okay? Plasty, we're going to talk about, for example, angioplasty, surgical repair of a vessel, maybe with a balloon, right? And or arthroplasty. This was the world I lived in for 2 years, okay, where we did knee replacements and hip replacements. And surgical repair of something, okay? Arthroplasty, dermoplasty, okay? Nasoplasty, all right? RIA, okay? This is flow or excessive discharge. Yeah, and then there's tome, okay? That's an instrument used to cut. So here's the crazy thing, okay? Dermatome. Dermatome actually also is another term that refers to an area of skin and fascia that is innervated by a specific nerve root. For those of you that are my athletic training students, we learned the living daylights out of this to the point where you were probably sick of it. But we're going to keep doing it because it's important, right? So, yeah, but ultimately a tome is an instrument used to cut. All right. Now, what words could you create with these prefixes, suffixes, and combining terms that you have learned? Okay, dermatitis, inflammation of the skin. Dermatoconiosis, okay, a skin problem caused by exposure to dust. Dermato, okay, skin, dermato pertaining to the skin. Fibroma, okay, a fibrous neoplasm or growth on the skin. Okay. Hidradenitis, okay, and that is actually inflammation of a sweat gland. Okay, Leoderma, smooth skin. And then last but not least, a fancy term, onchocryptosis. It's a medical term for an ingrown toenail. Okay. All right, words that you can look up on your own that you need to kind of be familiar with. Okay, these are big words, right? These are actually words that are formed obviously from word parts. Onychomycosis, okay, paronychia, seborrhea, xeroderma, abrasion, abscess, basal cell carcinoma, candidiasis, carbuncle, it's a funny one, cellulitis, contusion, eczema, fissure, gangrene, herpes, impetigo, Kaposi sarcoma, I think I misspelled that. Sorry about that. That is actually a type of skin cancer found in men with AIDS. Laceration, okay, lesion, psoriasis. Look those terms up and be familiar with them. If you've got tabers, use it. Look those up and write those down. Flashcards are your friend. Okay. Okay. What about coding for dermatologic conditions? Okay. So on your laminated handout you have, and actually I will post a link, and I'll do that tonight too before I go cough my brains out some more. I will post a link to a website called ICD10data.com. Sorry. ICD10data.com that actually will walk you through all of the prefixes and suffixes. So, and you'll see this when you look on this website or when you look at your laminated card. Okay, coding, ICD-10 coding for dermatologic conditions typically arises from prefixes C00 through D49. You're like, Wade, we're not at a grocery store. These are like aisle numbers. Okay, this will make sense when you see it, I promise. Okay. Actually, sorry, L00 through L99 is actually where we get those dermatologic conditions. I was looking at something else, but it's very important to learn because we have obviously the presence of things like melanoma and neoplasms of the skin that we typically also need to keep in mind. Modifiers and or additional codes for neoplasms. Those arise from codes C00 through D49. Okay, and I'll post a link to ICD10data.com as well for you guys. Okay. References, there you go. Okay, guys, I hope this is helpful. Once again, that's everything from day one. Once again, I do apologize for the delay, but I really don't think that this material is all that difficult. So on Thursday, we get into the heart and lungs. It's going to be a rip of a time. It's going to be awesome. Okay. So heart and lungs. Okay. And then I really hope, hopefully, please, God willing, that I will be back with you guys in person on Tuesday, whatever day that is, well, obviously Tuesday of next week, that I will be feeling better and that I will be able to return to campus and we can do this face to face, which would be amazing. I'd be very, very excited about that. Okay. I'll keep you guys posted. Like I said, tomorrow for me is an admin day. I've got non-class related stuff. Well, always got stuff to do, but I'll be able to get the stuff up for Thursday, prior to Thursday as well. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to do, guys, really quickly, and I do this for all I do this for all my other classes, but I want to get into the habit of doing this for you guys as well, because I believe in consistency, even though sometimes I'm not the best at it. I'm trying to get better. So sidebar, but let me show you something real quick. Hang on. Okay, what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to do my best every week to actually cut and paste the section of the syllabus from this class. Okay, cut and paste the section of the syllabus. So that would be here, so for today, and essentially put that in the Moodle in the Moodle area for the week. That way you can see exactly what's supposed to happen that week. Okay. So as a reminder, please don't forget the quiz that's posted. That the quiz 1 is open. Highly recommend that you look at these lectures before you do that. So clearly for this week, I would copy and paste these dates into Moodle. That way you could see them and know what's going on each week, and I'll get that done for you guys. Okay, working on my consistency. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, okay, you guys are great. I will hopefully see you next Tuesday. Please let me know if you have questions, and I'll see you then. Okay. Oh, and if there's any questions, let me know. Don't forget the discussion board either. Okay. Thanks.